681. My name is Glenn Borthistle, and welcome to my presentation, Case Studies in Qualitative Research. These are the learning outcomes for today as we take a quick tour of this common and important research methodology. I hope this will provide you a good overview of this particular methodology. For me, I am planning to apply these lessons to my proposed case study on social sense-making practices of central office leaders. First, I'm going to share some quotes from actual qualitative studies about the reason why researchers chose case studies as a methodology. This first quote is from a study on the implementation of evidence-based practices in medicine. Note how a case study was chosen in this case because of the attempt to look at organizational issues and to learn about the organization itself. So that's one reason for choosing case methodology, to understand more about your organization. In this study, case studies were chosen because of the ability to focus on a specific issue, in this case, sexual violence. Another reason that case study was chosen is because of its ability to allow for an in-depth exploration of the overall identified issue. So getting more information on an issue is another reason to do a case study. Finally, human behavior is complex and can't be replicated by a designed quantitative study. So case studies allow for the study of complex social phenomena in an actual authentic setting. These are all reasons for why case study is commonly chosen as a method of research. There are two distinctive characteristics of case studies that are provided here by Gillum, who notes first that the use of multiple sources of data is a key distinctive. Case studies do not rely only on one kind of evidence and allows for evidence sources to arise during the investigation. A second distinctive characteristic is that the researcher does not necessarily go into their research looking to prove a clearly defined theory, but rather waits until the theory or knowledge emerges from the data and context. You may not know what you are going to find out or what theory will be supported from the context of the study, but need to wait to analyze the data. So that is something that makes case study unique. The seminal work of case study methodology is Dr. Robert Yin, who's attributed here by Hallweck in her book review for his unyielding position that case study research is a legitimate and valid method for conducting research. You will see Dr. Yin quoted throughout this presentation in the chapter of the textbook and in many other research sources. We are going to look now at a short explanatory video giving an overview of the purposes, types, and steps in case study research methodology. Enjoy.
In this video, we are going to talk about the case study. We are going to use the Handbook of Practical Program Evaluation written by Joseph S. Holy, Harry P. Hartree, and Catherine E. Newcomer. First, what are case studies? In a general sense, a case study is like an in-depth and extended example that is used to illustrate a particular argument. However, in a more academic sense, we can define a case study as a method for developing a complete understanding of a process, program, event, or activity. So in these terms, a case study can be thought about as a way of approaching a research topic. Case studies can integrate both quantitative and qualitative information, and they can do this from a variety of sources, but they will tend to focus on qualitative information to give an in-depth picture of the issue being studied and the broader environment. As Holy et al. Explain, case studies can be used for several purposes, including defining the questions and hypothesis of a subsequent study, presenting a description of an event within its context, or establishing a cause and effect relationship. There are a variety of academic fields, from medicine to law to media and communications, that use case studies. Case studies are generally categorized in three ways: exploratory, descriptive, or explanatory. An exploratory case study is aimed at defining the questions and hypotheses of a subsequent study. For example, an exploratory case study might involve the in-depth research and analysis of the way a welfare program is successfully operated in a particular state. As a result of this case study, and using the results that the researchers put forward, other researchers can then use this to conduct further research on how to implement or drive new or updated welfare programs, perhaps in other states. A descriptive case study presents a complete description of an event within its context. This means that the research report will be highly descriptive, nuanced, detailed, and emphasize the contextual specificities of the particular example being examined. And lastly, an explanatory case study focuses on establishing cause and effect relationships, explaining which causes produced which effects. This means that the study examines the particular outcomes generated from a set of circumstances. For example, perhaps you would like to examine whether eating before swimming has any effect, and what circumstances, the timing after eating or the kind of food eaten, might be adding to those effects. How does one research or put together a case study? There are four main steps for researchers to put together a case study project. First, they design the study so they know exactly what they are researching and why. This is done by developing research questions, developing a framework based on those questions, and then following through. Second, one will conduct the study using a variety of methods such as research interviews, surveys and questionnaires, document analysis, historical research, and other research methods that they might feel is appropriate to their process. And third, researchers must analyse the data and information they have collected and collated. Perhaps they might build a database or use a specific theoretical research tool to systematically sift through the information. Lastly, the researchers must prepare the case study report, which will include not only the findings, but an outline of the context, data collection, and the limitations of the case study. So there you have it. You're ready to start building your own case study. Good luck!
Hope you enjoyed that. We will now turn to the information on case studies presented in Chapter 19 of our course textbook, Research Methods in Education. We will not be able to cover everything in the chapter in our session today, so please make sure to read the entire chapter for full details on all of these topics. A case study can be a person, a group, an organization, or an event. Case studies need to define the unit of analysis, the case, on which they are going to focus. Some authors state that what comprises a case study is at times so unclear that almost anything can serve as a case, so that a specific definition of what a case study is as a form of social research is not necessarily a meaningful term. However, it is important to identify some common characteristics. So further to this topic, our text states on page 375 that it could be argued that any research in social science is a case. and might include an experiment, action research, survey, naturalistic research, participatory research, historical research, etc. While some have characterized case studies as contested terrain, meaning that there's not agreement about what it is, our text settles that by saying on page 375 that arriving at a single definition of a case study is elusive and unnecessary. So researchers choose case studies for a reason. On page 376, our text states that case studies can establish cause and effect, how and why. Observe effects in real contexts, and that's an important component. Recognize that context is a powerful determinant of both causes and effects, and that in-depth understanding of the context is required to determine what the case really means. Descriptions of the types of case studies are wide and varied. In the video, they presented Yin's three types as descriptive, explanatory, and interpretive. Other authors agree with that and have added other types to this list. A key factor in any of these types, or in determining the type of case study, is that they are determined or can be determined by their purposes. The types of case studies here, as identified by Yin and Merriam and Stake, identify different types of case studies according to different purposes that the researcher would like to accomplish. In planning a case study and determining the type, Thomas makes an important distinction between the subject and object of the case. The subject is the example, i.e. the focus. For example, an education system, a school, a group of students, where the object is that which has to be explained, sometimes called the explandum. So in a school case, the structures, management, and levels of achievement. So selecting the subject and the focus is one part, and determining the object, that component that is to be analyzed, is another critical choice, along with the purpose, approach, and process to be taken. Of course, there are advantages and disadvantages, and this table, 19.2, outlines many of those. As far as strengths, note that case studies are strong on reality. It is reality-based research, and as a result, can often be more easily understood by a non-academic audience. There are weaknesses, of course, that the findings may not be generalizable because they're so context specific, that the findings might not be generalizable to other settings, and they are subject to researcher bias as well, potentially subject to researcher bias as well. These are some typical questions that the researcher will ask in preparing and planning their case study. We will apply these questions or some of these questions to an actual case and look at 4 of these questions. See how you might answer these questions based on the following case, which should be familiar to you. What exactly is the case? What kind of case study is this? What is reliable evidence? And what are appropriate selection processes to determine the most meaningful data? Enjoy this from a context that should be familiar to you.
Interior designers must be comprehensively equipped to create supportive, responsive environments. From hospitality to workplace and healthcare to retail, the demand for multidisciplinary solutions is formidable. Like William White did in The Social Life of Small Urban Spaces, we observed IKEA shoppers and mapped their meanderings. The biggest secret to IKEA's success is its maze-like spatial organization, designed to obscure a path to the exit. Shoppers meander along a 12-foot wide public street, continually distracted by fully accessorized private rooms to the right and the semi-private salon to the left. IKEA's other secret is the shortcut. We were interested in how many people take the shortcuts and why. The shortcut option allows an out for those who feel a loss of control by being confined to the street, like cutting through an alley. In exercising their freedom of choice and the need to break away from the herd, our study revealed that 40% of IKEA shoppers take the shortcuts, because shortcuts give people a sense of autonomy. People need to make their own rules in how to use space, proving that user autonomy is essential to successful interior design. Another observation that intrigued us was shoppers' interaction with the merchandise. Who samples what, how do they sample, and for how long? People tend to go where other people are. The reason for this is the human act of crowding. We observed that strategically placed product augmented by color, lighting, and pricing attracts the first herd member, and then others follow. Retail strategies designed to attract, engage, and ultimately get shoppers to purchase owe their success to consumer psychology. As the environmental psychologist Paco Underhill says, if we went into the stores only when we needed to buy something, and if once there we bought only what we needed, the economy would collapse.
Other neoliberal note, we'll just pause to analyze one of the questions. We won't be able to do all of them. But one of the questions was, what kind of case study is this? What is its purpose? So I would say that according to both Miriam and Yin, that this would be an interpretive case study. The researchers are making observations to determine the meaning of the human behavior that they see. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. There are three stages, or Nisbet and Watt suggest three main stages in undertaking a case study, starting with a wide field of focus, and then narrowing that focus progressively to after you have done an initial assessment of the context and gain some understanding of what the dynamics are. Once you are able to focus, then the third stage is to write a draft interpretation report. The key here in these stages is to not rush to conclusions, but to, again, starting broadly and then narrowing down to a focus, identify the key elements that are supported by the data. These are 6 key decisions, according to Hamilton and Corbett-Whittier. The one that I would just like to focus on a little bit is the strategic approach. It's important to think through your case study. Who will do what? When will they do it? And whom will they do it with? It's important, I think, to have a clear game plan going in, again, because human dynamics are complex and unpredictable. Yin describes 4 main designs in case study: single case, embedded single case, multiple case, and embedded multiple case, each having their own focus. For me and my study, I am looking at an embedded, either an embedded single case or a multiple case, a comparative case study where I will compare sense-making practices in 3 different districts, using 3 different district leaders as the unit of analysis. Your case study, any case study, can vary, of course, to fit with the purpose that the researcher has chosen. Data, of course, is produced and is the basis for coming to conclusions. And it can come from several different sources, as shown here. Our example of the from the IKEA video was from observations and perhaps field notes gained from those observations. The researcher can use several computer-assisted software tools, for example, NVivo, which is available to University of Alberta students, to process the data ready for analysis. This data can also be presented in a wide variety of ways, such as matrices, arrays of data, narratives, data displays, flowcharts, or maps, as we saw last week. Just some tips about recording observations. This can be one of the most difficult parts of a case study, and it is a skill that needs to be developed. One tip is to record the notes as quickly as possible after your observation to ensure accuracy, remembering that the notes that are taken and the recordings of observations will serve as the basis of the data for the study, but also need to be understood weeks or months or years after they've been taken. Of course, the point is to write up a case study, and the key factor in determining your report is what you want to say and who you want to say it to. This is called fitness for purpose and fitness for audience. These are 6 potential structures for writing the report that are well outlined in our chapter. And again, because case studies are flexible, your writing structure should fit the purpose and the audience that you were wanting to address. So, are you an effective case study researcher who can meet these requirements in your research? If you can, you should consider using case study as a method. In my proposed study, I will be attempting to apply each of these characteristics to the study design and study proposal. Of course, there are case problems with case studies, and our text discusses those. These are 4 of them. Some of them we've talked about already. While these problems are real, several authors note that it has been regarded that while case studies have been regarded as a weaker sibling to other methods for these reasons and others, it has been argued that this criticism is based on a very narrow set of studies which have been pulled out of a much larger set of excellent studies. And so case studies should be seen as a strong methodology which creates powerful research stories. In summary, doing a case study is gathering evidence which is unique and a distinguishing factor in case study research. Which of these 2 are examples of case study of the type of data gathered in, or the type of evidence gathered in case study research? If you said the latter, judicial, you would be correct. Case study researchers are like judges, uncovering the real story underneath what appears to be happening on the surface. And that is another reason why case study methodology is a meaningful and reality-based research method. Our final word goes to the master, Dr. Yin, who says that an exemplary case study must be significant, complete, take into consideration alternative perspectives, being careful to include sufficient evidence, and be engaging. If your case study contains these elements, it will be sure to be a success. Thank you for listening, and have a great day, everyone.